on for helping him out there. I'm James Dash Patterson, and I'm joined here once again by our special guest, special guest, Xpecial. Of course, they're going to throw that one at me, and Scarra for some expert insight into this series. So let's get right to that expert insight. Let's look immediately at the pick and ban phase. We saw a Lucian first pick come out. That is a high priority on a champion to give to Doublelift there. What do you think they were thinking in pulling that out?
I think CLG falls into this really bad mindset. And the mindset is that we have one of the best ADs like in North America. And because of that, we should high priority our AD carry pick. Because, and the reason why that's wrong is that it should be that if your player is that good, he should feel comfortable playing any role. Like whether or not he gets whatever AD carry he gets shouldn't matter in the lane. And so because of that, they gave away a Maokai for a Lucian pick. I feel like their draft was really messy, and they also picked Ahri, which is something that they, like I said before, you need really, really strong vision control to pull her off. They actually got exceptionally good vision control around the mid game, like at 5 pinks down, all of Dragon Fully War and stuff like that. And then they just executed one fight wrong, 2 fights wrong, and then they just lost the game because their team comp just had no way to come back into the game after that. Even though Doublelift did well, their general team comp and the way that they executed their strategy was poor.
Xpecial, as a fellow bot laner, I do want to get your insight in on that as well. Scarra mentioned he had a ton of farm. He was in the position in terms of items to carry, but it didn't happen. So at what point do you say, we've got to stop putting so much stock into this singular entity of our team and maybe look elsewhere?
Doublelift actually played really well in laning with Afterme that game. They were up a significant amount of CS in a matchup where it should be even/slightly favored towards Curse Academy. So it's good that they pressured bottom, and it's good they got ahead from that. But the biggest issue in that game wasn't really just the lanes, it was the fights. They were trying to fight early when Mundo isn't as strong as Maokai. Maokai's a really strong teamfight champion, especially early on with his ultimate. And they just lost way too many fights, and they lost them way too hard. I do think that Link played fairly poorly in these fights, and that's huge for an Ahri because Orianna is someone who can turn around fights really easily. She has a lot of potential. You have a lot of spells. It's kind of hard to miss. It's a pretty large AoE, but Ahri is very precise. You need to be able to line your skill shots and not get hooked and be able to do a lot of damage. And Ori was doing way more than Ahri was in these fights, and it showed. They just won fights way too convincingly.
This is now the 4th Ahri game in a row that we've seen be unsuccessful today. So that has to beg the question: is it time to bench that champion, move on to something else that is more team fight oriented? Because that's where we're seeing that pick, kind of falter.
I just think, yeah, like they actually had a good team comp to get Ahri ahead. That they just faltered in being able to execute it correctly. Like they even got solid picks, controlled the entire Dragon area, controlled both blue buffs, both the 2nd and the 3rd spawns. Like they had a really good idea of how to win the game. They just executed 2 consecutive team fights very poorly, and because of that, they weren't able to get ahead.
Yeah, so this is completely different from the HUK games because HUK couldn't get the vision out. They were completely blind. They were walking into the enemy team, or they were just letting them walk in. But here, CLG had complete vision, but they were still letting Curse Academy walk in. They need to be able to, if they want to play Ahri, they need to be able to wait, be patient, and wait for them to walk in, pick people off, kill them one at a time, not overcommit, but at the same time, you want to be able to pressure them and have them be scared as they walk in. And that's like essential to Ahri, and essential to any sort of pick comp. And with Elise and Ahri, you need to do that.
That's very true. We can't take away from CLG the fact that they did have stellar vision control. Pretty early on in the game, they had 5 pink wards up to Curse Academy's singular pink ward. They were going much deeper with their vision. You said controlling their blue buff. They got a couple successful picks. So then we move into the team fight phase, where things started to fall apart. Is that more on a mechanical level, that these players just were not executing properly their role within the team fight, or is it a mismatch in communication and not calling the fights properly?
I think it's probably communication. It's like a little bit of everything, because nothing is just like singular, but it seemed like conceptually, like mechanically, they weren't on the same page. And that's probably a breakdown in communication as well. And because of that, they ended up losing the 2 big mid-game fights that Ahri needs to snowball her lead.
I would like to look at Curse Academy now, because they obviously did do a lot of things right in order to get back into that game. They played the team fights correctly. So Xpecial, how much of that is a product of having those veterans like Saint Vicious and Bunny Fufu in the roles of shot caller who can kind of keep the team composed and looking forward to the later parts of the game?
I don't know how CLG does their shot calling, but it was not clean that game. They were way too sloppy. They were focusing different targets. And Curse Academy, they were always cutting back. When, for example, Bunny on Thresh got picked off near their Wraith area, Keen had a perfect 4-man ultimate that just completely melted their team. It's just sure, sometimes they're walking in, they're getting picked off, but their team is reacting immediately. And that sort of communication, that sort of response is what's needed at this level. You don't really have enough time to just tell everybody exactly what to do. It needs to be instinctive. And we're not seeing the LCOG. They're just getting picked off. They're getting into these bad fights. They're not letting skill shots. All these things are going wrong, and it can't be like that if they want to win this game.
We'll take a look at that Wraith Camp pick in a second. First, I want to pull up a different replay, though. 23 minutes into the game near the Dragon Pit. It was kind of one of the larger turning points there for Curse Academy. So, Scarra, I'll let you take this one away.
Okay, so 2 big things happened in this fight that lost them this. And this is probably what I think is the game-deciding fight, outside of the Wraith Camp Free Baron. Afro ulti's really too early. Like, no one can follow that up. There's absolutely no way. They go in, it sucks, whatever. The TP comes in, Link gets a perfect charm, and Chunk, there's no reason to ulti back around to try to get damage onto the Thresh. He should have ultied away after that Chunk. They had to disengage after Thresh got Chunk because he's one of their initiators and follow-ups, and they could have just looked to start the Dragon and look for another thing once his rotation came back up. And then after that, Curse Academy just had to clean up the fight. I'm surprised Keen didn't die there because he was like in the middle of 3 people, but he didn't even hit. He hit 1 person with his ulti, but it didn't matter because CLG had already botched their initiation so hard.
Especially you talked about their reactionary play. That's one example. Let's jump right into the second example, which you brought up. We're going to go 27 minutes into the game in Curse Academy's red side jungle. Take it away.
CLG had really good vision in this game. As you can see here, Curse Academy, they're walking in blind. And against an Aryan, at least, that should mean death. But you're going to see in a little bit that's not exactly what happens. They group up way too hard here. You see all 4 of them kind of walk in. Keen's like, all right, I'm just going to ult here. I mean, it's really easy. 4 of them get popped to at least half, and it's easy cleanup. It's just Kha'Zix, Corki, they're all really pretty much full HP, and they just melt them. I mean, obviously Saint's low, but it didn't matter. He did all his damage, and it's a cleanup into Baron. And in this, for the Ahri team comp, it's pretty much game over.
Yeah, it seemed like, especially in that fight, they tunneled a little bit too hard on getting that Thresh kill that they walked right into that Ori ball. And sometimes it's hard to keep track of that, the positioning of the ball in those large team fights. One final note, I want to go into the next game. We're looking at CLG because they did have that map control. They did make some smart decisions early. They were winning individual lanes, particularly the bot lane. So what are the adjustments they need to make to execute properly on those leads that they get? Xpecial?
I think Bunny's Thresh was a pretty huge factor in that game. Sure, he wasn't winning his lane, and he was getting picked off once a little bit, but he was making these plays in team fights that were really punishing, especially for Link's Ahri. I think Link should probably fall back onto probably an Orianna or a Syndra, where he can still do damage, even if he doesn't play absolutely perfectly. And I want to see Thresh be taken away, just because I know Bunny's going to have a huge impact on that champion.
Scarra, thoughts?
I definitely agree with that. I think the draft phase needs to improve dramatically. Just to reiterate what I said before, I think they need to drop AD carry priority in draft. I think that's actually messing up their draft completely. If they drop AD carry priority, like for instance, this next set, they're on purple side, they don't want to an AD carry in the 1-2 for purple, then they will have a much better chance of winning, or getting like a more balanced team comp. Or a stronger team comp just coming out of the draft. And I think that's something that they really need to improve if they're looking to win this series.
All right, we'll see if CLG can make those changes, as Curse Academy looked rather strong there at the end of Game 1. We do have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back for Game 2 between CLG and Curse Academy.
Damage. Saint wants to make something happen, but he's going to go down. Dexter picks up that kill. Link, so low. Impactful picks up that kill. And Seraph now exhausted. Twisted advance. He's locked down for days. Link from the backside. Bunny Fufu gets taken down so low, but Link's now focused. He's going to fall. That's support from mid lane and not necessarily what CLG wants. Yeah, Bunny Fufu gets caught there with everything being blown, but look at the turnaround for Curse Academy. All of that damage Impactful got here at exactly the right time. Sarah forced to use that flash to get away, but St. Vicious has found him now. Nice charm from Link. Oh my goodness, Link gets obliterated. And there's a 3-man shockwave there underneath the turret. Double If gets caught, and now Twisted advanced on. He's gonna get destroyed.